Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Yetunde aka YBA, and in today's video I'm going to be giving you tips on how to support someone who has just had a miscarriage or has experienced infant loss. Stay with me and don't go anywhere. This month of October is the month where we celebrate pregnancy and infant loss. We're remembering and honoring babies that we have lost along the journey of this motherhood. A lot of families go through infant and pregnancy loss, be it when you lose the pregnancy in the early stages or late, or be it the child that you lost when you were in the neonatal care, maybe a premature baby, or a child that was lost in the early days or weeks of his or her life. Infant death in any form or way that you think about it is something that is very hard, and it is something that some families have to deal with over and over and over again. Personally, I have had 6 miscarriages. I have 3 children. I'm a mom of 3 right now. But for me to have those 3 kids, in between all 3 of them, I experienced pregnancy loss 6 times. And talking about saying it, every time I say it now, I feel a certain kind of way, like, wow, I did this 6 times. I think the biggest reason why people don't talk about miscarriages, infant loss, child loss, people just sort of run away from it. I think the biggest reason is because people actually don't know how to approach it. And I'm not going to lie, it's a difficult topic to navigate. For the person who is going through it, it's difficult to talk about. And for people around them, it's difficult to also bring up. Some people would rather not talk about it. So in today's video, I will be telling you how to support someone who has experienced infant loss, pregnancy loss, you know, anything that is in this whole category. If you're someone who is still dealing with child loss, infant loss, pregnancy loss, miscarriages, or you're going through it right now, this is your cue to exit this video. My aim is not to trigger anyone. Honestly, I just want information out there that people can use, and we can, you know, it can enable us to deal with these situations in a better way. People's experiences are unique. We all don't go we can go through the exact same situation, but we don't see it the same way. What I need will be different from what someone else needs, but I'm just going to talk about blanket things. I'm also going to talk to people who are their family members, the close family members, the husband, the children, the siblings, you know, the parents, whoever you are, you're a close family member, so you are able to be a part of this journey. Then I'm going to talk about just generally, if you're a colleague, their friend, you know, you're not that close, even if you're close, but you're not with them in their home, what can you do to help this person? How can you support the family that has just experienced this huge loss? First of all, let me just say I'm sorry. I mean, whoever you are, whether it's infant loss, whether it's pregnancy loss at any stage, whether it's a stillbirth, I still can't talk about some of those my experiences without tearing up. And this is me. I have 3 children now. You would think that, because that's what people think. People go like, oh, but you have a baby already. Oh, but you've already had another baby. You never forget. It's a loss. It's grief. You carry it with you every time. There's really nothing you can do about it. One of the first things I think you can do is not to pry. It doesn't mean you're going to ignore them, but it's hard to talk about. Sometimes you're not, you know, for me, and I will keep saying for me, that first experience, I didn't know how to feel. At some point in the process, I felt relief. Yes, relief, because I ended up getting an infection. I have a video on my miscarriage experience. I'm going to put the link up here. If you watch that, you know what I'm talking about. At some point, I got an infection, and I was in so much pain that I think my brain ignored my grief. and was just like, I just want to be okay. Like, I just want to be healthy. I want to stop being in pain. I want to stop crying. I want to stop bleeding. And when he eventually ended, the first feeling I had was relief. Like, it's finally over. And I went through the relief stage for like 2 days. I remember I went back to work. I was, I did my makeup. Then I felt guilty for feeling relief. And like I said, watch that video, my miscarriage experiences. So don't pry. Sometimes the person that is dealing with it, they're not even, like, they can't sort out their feelings yet. It's hard to talk about. I know people who have had miscarriages and they just came back to work and just acted like nothing happened. I know people who had to return. They had told everybody, oh, bye, see you in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, depending on the length of time you have for maternity leave. And that wasn't the case. They had to return back to work after a month because they lost their baby. And some people go and start asking them, so how did it happen? Do not pry. I promise you, if it is something they want to talk about, if you are their person that they would like to talk about it with you, they will seek you out. One thing that you can do for someone who is having this issue is, honestly, if you are a close family member, like the husband, take away like every other thing that could stress them and just let them be. Now, when I say let them be, like I said, we all deal with things differently. There was a miscarriage I had. Again, watch that video. There was a miscarriage I had that miscarriage, and like that night I went out clubbing, and it was because I didn't want to feel anything. And my husband kept on asking me. I told my husband, we need to go out. I was like, shouldn't we go home? And I'm like, no, don't worry, it's fine. We're just going to do dinner. And then from dinner, I'm like, okay, let's go and hang out here. I just didn't want to go home. I didn't want to feel the way I was feeling. And he didn't want me to do that. Because he knew how I felt, what had happened with the previous miscarriages. So I think he was just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, okay, I know you're going to, something is going to happen. But I didn't just want to feel it, and so I pushed my feelings aside. You need to leave the person alone. That's the way I have chosen to deal with that particular issue. I know it might not be healthy, but especially when it's still happening in that period, you need to just give the person some space. Your job is to wait around them and make sure that you're there to catch them if they do fall. They might not fall. They might eventually be okay, but your job is just to hang around and catch them if they fall. What can you do? Like, let's say you go and visit your friend who has just had a miscarriage or who has just lost their child. I will always say this: it's better not to say anything than to say the wrong thing. So if you don't know what to say in this circumstance, honestly, just sitting with someone who has gone through a loss of any kind and just sitting with them or standing with them, that shows support. It's not by force that you must say something. It's not by force that you must just look for something to say, because this is what happens in the process of I must say something. You might end up causing more harm than good. You might end up saying things that you should not say. It's not about you. This person is going through it, so you cannot say those things. I have a friend of mine, Asmao and Chioma. Hi guys, there was a miscarriage I had. I think my worst miscarriage ever, that I still till date, I say that the miscarriage that almost killed me, because honestly I thought I was gonna die. That was how bad it was. And that miscarriage, I remember when I got home from the hospital, and my girls, they just came, my friends, the girlfriends, they came the following day. And when they came, I honestly initially could not talk. Well, I could talk, but I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't want to cry, because I didn't want to just wallow. And I was physically not even feeling. I was in my bedroom, so they came upstairs they came to my bedroom, and you know what they did? I remember Chioma was the first person to come. They just laid down in bed with me. And I remember myself and Chioma, we took a nap together. I woke up, she brought food, and she was asking me if I wanted. Initially, I didn't want any. And then we slept, and then we woke up when my other girlfriend showed up, Asmao. And when Asmao showed up, she found us in bed. She just you know, got comfortable and just crawled into bed with us. And you know, it's not like the movies where we're hugging and kissing. No, they just stayed in bed with me. And these ladies were in bed with me for hours. I mean, they came in the morning, didn't go back home until evening. When I was finally ready to eat, you know, okay, which one do you want? They both brought food, by the way. Shout out to my girls, like they know how to take care of me. We just talked about general things, and eventually I was like, let me even tell you guys how it happened, and I was able to talk about it. Someone that has older kids, you can help them out with their older kids. Just take you know, stress off of them. If it's someone who needs you to run 1 or 2 errands, you can run errands for someone who is grieving or is going through loss. Just take stress off them. Don't cry and let them be. A lot of people also make one mistake now, because people don't know how to approach this situation. Some people don't show up at all. They don't show support at all. They don't say anything. They don't acknowledge what has happened. They just see you and act hunky-dory. You can't be someone's friend or family and then you act like you don't know what happened. You have to show that you're present. Your presence does not mean you have to talk. Your presence does not mean you have to be doing things, but that you will just act as if nothing happened. Maybe you just don't know what to say. You don't have the words. Well, find something. If this person is your friend and you really do care about them, even if just your colleague, a simple "I'm so sorry for your loss" will suffice. You can text it. You know you can text. You can WhatsApp it. You know you can write them a nice note and send them flowers. If you can't send flowers, put the note and send it to their house, maybe with a drink. Just don't act like it didn't happen. That person can switch their anger or whatever they're feeling and turn it on to you. I'm guilty of this. I got really mad at a friend of mine who was told what had happened to me by another friend of mine. And this friend of mine calls me and say, "Hey, what's up?" And was just talking to me like normal. And I know they have heard. And I'm like, wait, just benefit of that. Didn't you hear that this happened to me? And they were like, well, I didn't know how to say anything. Oh, and I lit into them. Of course, we made up, and we talked about it. And I apologized for yelling, but I did quite some yelling that day. And I wasn't angry at them. I mean, maybe I was angry at them a little, but I think it was more from a place of how can you act? This big thing that just happened to me, how can you act like it didn't happen? So what not to do is don't act like it did not happen. You have to be present. You have to show support. You can be present in silence. Yeah, if the person doesn't want to receive visitors, don't go there. Send them a card or something. Send them text messages in the night, in the morning, even if they turned off their phones. When they open their phones, they will see your messages and they can see like someone else acknowledged my loss. Because, you know, we don't want to go through that kind of thing. Nobody wants to go through it, and everybody is acting as if nothing happened or just little something happened. I also want to talk about the father. A lot of people come and all of the focus is on the mom. And a lot of times the dad, the partner is ignored. They are also hurting. They've also lost a child. Most of the time, they're the ones who get the front row seat to the gory details, the blood, the blood clots. Some fathers have had to organize burials for their infants because maybe the mom, especially in our culture, is not allowed to do it. They've had to physically carry their dead baby to go and bury, or, you know, it's a lot. So when people come and all the focus is on the mom, some men tend to feel left out, and it's just an easy and quick road to depression. The two people, parents who just lost a child, who just lost a baby, and loss is not something that you can say this one's own is small, this one's own is no. We all take things differently. Let me share an experience. There was a letter I had written one time when I wrote it for a friend of mine whose wife had a stillbirth. It was maybe at about 8 or 7 months. It was really bad, and they had some fertility issues, and they had to go through a lot of treatments, and they had done all of this treatment and that treatment, and finally one took, and they were so excited, and then they lost this baby, and his wife had to have, had to deliver the baby. He was in the delivery room, but the baby was already gone. And, they had to do all of that. It's a whole lot. And I had to call him back. How are you doing? And initially, he just said, no, I'm fine, because, that's what the society expects from men. They should be fine now, Abby. What's the big deal? He was like, no, I'm good. And I love to write when the spirit leads. So I sat down and I wrote something for him. And I wrote this thing because of how I had found out about how my husband was feeling after our first miscarriage. And when I wrote him this note, I remember I sent it to my husband to read first. I was like, it's because of you. You're the one who inspired me, because I feel like this guy, nobody's asking him anything and he's going through it. I sent it to him and, oh, he loved it. The next time he saw me, he gave me this like huge hug. So please don't forget the dad. Now, I want to talk to parents. Especially parents who have older children. When I say older kids, it could just be a toddler, like 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, whatever the age of your kids are, and then you go through any of these losses, whether it's a miscarriage, a pregnancy loss, an infant loss, anyone. A lot of times, because you're taking care of yourselves, you get to, like I said, get a front row seat to the traumatic event, and so you guys are dealing with it. Sometimes we forget the children, and with kids, kids of nowadays, they're not us. Even us, some of us are still dealing with some of the traumatic events of our childhoods. And so, when you're expecting a baby in the house, everybody is excited. Everybody is expectant. Even if they're not excited, they know somebody is supposed to come. I'm supposed to get a baby sister, a baby brother. Mommy is, pregnant. Oh, we're expecting. And if that doesn't happen anymore, there is need for you to talk to your children about it. You have to tell children the truth, because they figure it out eventually, and they're watching you. They know when you're lying. Kids, they can sniff out BS faster than adults. So I will always recommend to tell the truth, but I always recommend PG version. So whatever has happened, just break it down. PG version, a version of it that they can handle. Find something to tell them. Let them have closure. They might ask you questions. Can I see a picture? How come I didn't get to see the baby? Because children are inquisitive. Just think about the possible questions. Your child. The kind. Some of us, we have children that when you tell them something, okay, they move on. And there's some of them who sit with it and come back to you with bigger questions. If you need to pray with them, if you need to light a candle with them, just some form of closure so that they can move on. Don't forget your kids. Whilst you're taking care of yourself, remember your children or child and talk them through the entire process. You know how I talked about minimizing statements the other time? Some of them are things that we say either from a religious standpoint or just from a cultural standpoint. At times they're just downright inappropriate. And it's because maybe we're uncomfortable with the situation and we don't know what to do. Number one that people say is always, it could have been worse. In practice, yes, it could have been worse. But for someone who is going through it in that moment, there's nothing. What can you tell me? There's nothing worse than me losing my baby. People do this a lot. If you lose the pregnancy early, at least it's just 6 weeks. Yeah, I've heard that before. Or at least it was early, so you can move on. Don't say things like that. It's probably for the best. It's hard to see the best. What's the best? I had someone, let me tell you another experience, who saw me with my first daughter, and we were attending a hospital together while I was going through my miscarriage. So I told them what I was going through, and then they saw me like 2 years later with my baby, my first daughter, and this person told me and said, see, fine girl, didn't I tell you? God has given you fine girl. That one, it was just not good. Don't say things like that. It can set people off. Don't worry, you are young. You have time. So if I'm old, that's when it's a problem. But you already have 2 kids now. There must have been something wrong. Were you eating well? Did you drink alcohol? Is that bank stress? This used to happen to me when I was working in the bank. Something must be wrong. You better go and change doctor. That's not how to tell the person. If you're really a concerned party and you have good advice, I believe there's a better way for you to table your advice and ask and tell them what to do. Even if you have recommendations, maybe you want to recommend a certain doctor or a certain hospital or something, there's a better way to say it. This one is what that gets me angry the most. Someone is going through it or has just gone through it, and people start asking, but you know this is the best time for you to start trying again. You should start trying again. Don't waste time. Don't waste time. Forget that one. Move on. My final advice to anyone who's going through this, you need to give yourself time. Giving yourself time does not mean you don't start again. I'm talking about time to grieve. You can be pregnant with another baby, but that doesn't mean you cannot think about your baby that you lost, because that's what society makes us believe. Be like, Shabi, you are now pregnant now. You are okay. You've had another baby. Shabi, you finally had a baby. Why are you talking about it? No. Your grief is valid. How you're feeling is valid. Don't sit with the pain. Don't let it stay. It has a period. You have to feel it. You have to embrace it. You have to cry if it's crying. If you need to work out whatever it is your jam is that you need to do something for yourself. Feel it. Let the pain come. Then we move on. So take your time to grieve. If you can grieve and start trying again, good for you. If you can't, please don't do it. Process your feelings. Don't become those feelings. You're so much more than that, and you're not alone. If you have comments for me, things that people did that helped you when you were grieving, please leave a comment. And if you also have the other ones, the things people did to you that you didn't like, please share in the comment section. I would love to read from you. Again, when you share these comments, people can see what to do and what not to do. And you see, now we're going to just have a better world, and we're going to just be able to deal with this loss in a better way than we are already doing as a society. So thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to click on the notification bell, and of course I'm expecting comments from you. See you next week, and that will be like my final episode on miscarriages, pregnancy and infant loss for the month of October. So see you next week. Bye bye.